I knew something was off when the wedding planner looked at me, smiled, and called me the wallet. She said it like a joke, real casual, like we were all in on it. But I wasn't laughing. We were walking through the venue that Jess picked a big place, all marble floors and gold-framed mirrors, the kind of spot that smells like money even before you sign anything. Jess was out front, heels clicking across the tile, pointing at corners, talking about where the string quartet would sit and where the champagne tower should go. And I was just tagging along, nodding, trying to keep up. The planner leaned in and said, "She's got a vision, huh? Don't worry, she said your credit score is rock solid. We'll get it all through our partner financing." And I froze. Just for a second. Long enough for her to move on like nothing happened. But inside, something cracked. Because I never gave Jess my credit info. Not officially, not out loud. And this lady was talking like that number was already in someone's spreadsheet. I didn't say anything then, just smiled, swallowed hard, and kept walking. But truth is, I didn't hear another word the rest of that tour. I just kept thinking about that clipboard Jess handed me a week before. It had vendor forms, sample contracts, and tucked in the middle was a credit authorization sheet, blank. I asked about it. She brushed it off. Said the planner added it by mistake. "Just toss that part," she laughed. And I did. I wanted to believe her. I really did. Because Jess had a way of making you feel like the crazy one when you questioned anything. Not in a mean way. More like a soft deflection. She'd tilt her head, touch your arm, say, "Babe, come on, it's me." And you'd feel silly for even asking. That's how it was. Every time the budget came up, she'd smile and say, "We'll figure it out." Every time I suggested scaling back even just a little, she'd say, "You only get one shot at this." And maybe that's true. But not gonna lie, it started to feel less like our wedding and more like her stage. You ever feel that? Like you're not really the co-star in your own life, just a prop? That's what it started to feel like. It's not that I didn't love her. I did, still do in some ways. She's smart, funny, the kind of person who can light up a dinner table without even trying. But when it came to the wedding, something shifted. The woman I knew who used to eat cold pizza on the couch with me and laugh at dumb YouTube videos, she was gone. Replaced by someone glued to Pinterest boards and bridal forums, speaking in hashtags like number floral moment and number aisle goals. It got to where we barely talked about anything else. One night, I brought it up. Said maybe we could dial it back a little, keep the heart of it, lose the excess, just simplify. She didn't yell, didn't get mad. She just blinked, smiled too fast, and said, "I thought you wanted me to be happy." And man, that line shut me up so fast. Because how do you argue with that without sounding like the bad guy? So I backed off. Again. But something inside me stayed restless. I started noticing little things. Vendors emailing her but CCing me. Invoices that looked higher than what we agreed on. Her phone buzzing late at night with messages labeled planner, even though I thought we already finalized everything. Then one afternoon, I got a call from the florist. She was confirming the final numbers on the financing app. Financing. That word again. My throat went dry. I played dumb. Said I'd call her back. Then I checked our joint email, the one we made just for wedding stuff, and found it. An e-sign request. Application already filled out. My name, my address, my income, all correct. Credit score box? Left blank, waiting for authorization. And that's when it hit me. She wasn't just planning a big wedding. She was planning it on me. Quietly, smoothly. Like it was already decided. Like I wouldn't notice until after the cake was cut and the photographer packed up. I sat on the couch that night, in the dark, with just the hum of the fridge behind me, staring at my phone. I could have called her out right then, could have thrown everything on the table. But something told me. I needed to be sure. I needed to wait. Just a little longer. So I waited. Just a couple days. Played it cool. Still smiled when she talked about linen colors and signature cocktails. Still nodded when she said we should circle back to the fireworks package. But inside, I was just watching. Watching how easily she said we when the decision was really hers. Watching how quick she was to change the subject anytime I brought up cost. Watching how she lit up talking about centerpieces, but went quiet when I mentioned a joint savings plan. Then came the night that sealed it. We were sitting on the couch, television playing some wedding show in the background. She loved those shows, by the way, especially the ones where brides cried over $10,000 gowns. Anyway, she was scrolling on her phone, kind of half paying attention, and she says, "Oh, hey, I forwarded you something from the planner. Just need you to e-sign it so we can lock in the dessert table. I paused. What's on it? She didn't even look up. Just said, the usual, cake stuff. Maybe a vendor deposit. I don't know, babe. It's nothing big. And that's when I knew. She was testing the waters, seeing how much I'd blindly agree to. So I nodded, said, cool, I'll look at it after this episode. She smiled, moved closer, laid her head on my shoulder like nothing in the world was wrong. And all I could hear was my heartbeat. Later that night, when she went to bed early with a migraine, I opened the email, and there it was, a multi-vendor bundle. Catering, flowers, decor, custom lighting. Total, $42,600. Financing terms, 7 years. The 1st of April, 7.4%. And the signature line? Already typed in with my full name. All I had to do was click confirm. I just sat there, staring at the screen. Not angry, not even shocked, honestly. Just sad. Like that heavy, silent kind of sad. Because in that moment, I realized she didn't trust me enough to talk about money, but trusted me enough to use mine. And that's a weird thing to feel. I closed the laptop, got up, walked to the kitchen, stood by the sink for a while, listening to the hum of the dishwasher, the click of the old fridge cycling on. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but I knew I wasn't signing anything. The next morning, she was all smiles, making pancakes, humming some Taylor Swift song, talking about invitation fonts. I watched her move around the kitchen like nothing was brewing under the surface, and something about that made me feel like a stranger in my own home. Around noon, I told her I was heading out to run errands. She kissed my cheek, said, "You're the best." I drove straight to my buddy Chris's house. He's a financial advisor, knows his stuff. I laid it all out, the applications, the vendor stack, the emails. He looked through everything in silence, then set the laptop down and said, "Do not put your name on any of this." I asked what my options were. He said, "You got two. Either you have a serious talk with her, set boundaries, and she agrees to restructure everything, or you walk. Before your credit's wrecked for a wedding you didn't even design." I sat with that for a long time, let it marinate, thought about all the years I spent crawling out of debt after my last relationship, thought about how long it took me to rebuild my credit, my savings, my peace. And here I was, watching it all dangle over a gold-plated centerpiece. That night, I didn't say anything. I needed one more day to get clear, but she must have sensed something, because the next morning she was quiet, real quiet. No wedding talk, no Pinterest boards, just sipping coffee, scrolling her phone. Around lunch, I finally asked, "Hey, why'd you already fill in my name on that vendor form?" She froze, just a beat, then smiled tight and said, "I figured you'd say yes. You always do." I said, "But you didn't ask." And she said, "We're getting married. Isn't it the same thing?" And man, those words, they hit harder than anything else. Because no, it's not the same thing. Love isn't a blank check. Commitment isn't a contract to be used. And saying "I do" shouldn't mean I surrender. I stood up, walked over to the dining table, and pulled out a folder. Inside, a breakdown I printed, my financial history, my credit, my budget. I slid it across to her and said, "This is me, on paper, all of it. If you can't respect what's here, we shouldn't move forward." She looked at the papers, didn't touch them, just stared. Then whispered, "I thought you trusted me." I said, "I did. Until you stopped trusting me enough to talk to me before trying to spend 40 grand behind my back." She didn't cry, didn't yell, just walked upstairs. Door clicked shut, and I sat there in the quiet thinking, maybe that click was the real sound of the wedding being canceled. She didn't come downstairs that night. I heard her moving around a little, pacing maybe, the soft creak of the bedroom floor when she crossed to the window. Then nothing, just silence. And you know, I didn't go up, not out of anger. I just didn't have the energy anymore. I sat on the couch, lights off, phone face down on the coffee table, just me and the sound of the ceiling fan ticking every time it rotated slightly off balance. I must have sat there for hours, thinking. Not even about the wedding anymore, really, but about everything that led to this point. The little ways I ignored myself to keep her happy. The moments I said okay, when what I really meant was, this doesn't feel right. The nights I told myself it would all make sense once we said our vows. Truth is, I was more in love with the idea of what we could be than what we actually were. And that realization? It's like a quiet punch to the gut. The next morning, I got up early, made coffee, Saturday out on the porch with a hoodie pulled tight around me even though it was warm out, just needed to feel wrapped in something. She came down around 8, barefoot, hair tied up, holding her phone like it weighed too much. She didn't say good morning, just sat across from me and stared out at the street. After a while, she said, "I didn't mean for it to get like this." I nodded. Didn't speak. She said, "I just wanted it to be perfect. I thought if I handled everything, you'd feel taken care of, like I had it under control." I looked at her, really looked at her, and said, "You handled everything, except the one thing I actually care about." She frowned. "What's that?" I said, "Us. The team part. The part where you ask instead of assume." She looked down, wiped her cheek, said quietly, "I didn't think you'd say yes if I showed you the real numbers." I didn't respond right away. I just sipped my coffee. Then I said, "If you didn't trust me with the budget, why would I trust you with a marriage?" That one sat heavy, like it filled the space between us and settled into the floorboards. We didn't talk much after that. A few days passed. She stayed in the guest room. The wedding planner called twice. I didn't pick up. Then one afternoon she sat me down and said she was canceling everything. Said she already contacted the vendors. Said she'd eat the deposits. Said she was sorry. And I believed her. I really did. But it didn't fix the thing that broke. So I told her I needed space. Not just in the apartment, in life. I packed a bag, went to my brother's place upstate, chopped wood, drank too much coffee, walked the long gravel roads behind his house like they might lead me back to some version of myself I forgot. And somewhere out there, between the silence and the bird song and the sound of my boots crunching on old leaves, I made peace with it, with all of it, that sometimes love isn't enough, that wanting something to work doesn't mean it should, that the right thing done the wrong way still hurts. She texted me once, said she understood, said she hoped I found what I was looking for. I didn't reply, not because I was mad, but because some endings don't need punctuation, just space. Now, months later, I'm good, better even. I still flinch a little when I hear the word wedding, not gonna lie. But I'm not bitter. I've started dating again, nothing serious, just trying to relearn what it means to build something slowly. Honestly, together. And if someone asked me what I learned from all this, I'd say this. If someone insists on a big, beautiful wedding, but they hide the cost from you, don't just check the budget. Check your gut. Because love that's built on silence and credit applications isn't love at all. It's a loan. And sooner or later, someone's going to have to pay.